me and my mother knew that she was the rock, the foundation of our family. And my dad was like the mortar or the glue that held us all together. So what I'd like to do is open up this time to share some memories. I'd like for the family members who are here, because I could speak about my dad and the things he did for everyone. But I know, talking to my cousins and my aunts, that my dad was my dad, but he was like a dad to my cousins. And I wanted to honor the fact that he gave to all members of the family, and he helped where he could. So I'm going to share a little bit, and then I'd ask my cousins if they would mind, if you want to speak, or my nieces, or my nephews, to come up. After this message, or right after this, we'll have another song, and we'll go ahead and ask for people who are here who knew my dad if they'd like to share something. But I asked the Tafoya family if they would like to come up. So one thing I'd like to share is, back a few years, there was a pretty cold storm here, and for some reason, P&M decided to turn off the power to a certain area to try to protect the power grid. My house was in that area, and we were so cold in that house, and we had just moved there. My dad went and picked up portable heaters and a generator so that we could have heat in the downstairs, and he was up there within 2 hours with it so that we wouldn't be cold. And he did things like that for many people within the family and outside of the family. But my dad's biggest thing was blood was thicker than water. You have to forgive and forget. Yeah, he says sometimes you have to duke it out, but you have to take care of each other. So this is a time that I was wondering if my family would like to say anything. Because I am little Clyde or little Louis, and I can talk forever. But I would love for someone to share besides me. Because I know there are others in the Tafoya family who are not shy.
Uncle Louis was such a special man. Come to Utah, we'd flock to him, and he was like glue to us. A while back, I wanted to learn Spanish, and he said, okay, he says, you ask every day for the word of the day, I will give you a word. Okay, and he would send me the word, how to pronounce it, and then a description again, just to make sure I got it. And this went on until about 3 weeks ago. And I didn't want to bother him anymore, so I didn't want to keep doing it. And he said, no, please send me the word of the day every day so I can respond. And I said, okay, I'll do that. I had such respect. I'm going to miss him. It was an honor.
I'm going to share one more that's not my story. It's my son's story and nephew's story. So one of the things that we learned was my dad grew up on don't be spare the rod, spoil the child. So he was old school, but when it came to his grandkids, he was not old school. So he made sure he taught my son 2 for 2 cops. My son knew 2 for 2 cops, but he knew how to write. Just because he said, my grandson doesn't need to be spanked. So if your mommy spanks you, call 2 for 2 cops. He did the same thing with my nephew. So my son never called 911 or 2 for 2 cops as far as I knew. But my nephew was being babysat by my dad, and my dad had just finished teaching him the same thing. So my nephew picked up the phone and dialed 911. And he just dialed it because he was taught how to dial 911. So my dad had to call back and explain the situation. So sometimes the visuals we have for our family is so unique that I thought I'd share something funny. But many people know my dad outside of the community because he would go wherever there was an event that he could go to. And he would try to get there. It was harder for him when he was sick. So when my son had baseball games, Grandpa would be there. And I have friends who their kids were calling my dad Grandpa because he was there. And he would go there, he would go and sit and he would cheer, but he would always try to do one thing special. So there's this little boy, Elijah Brown, and my son started playing baseball with his brother, and Elijah was 2. And from the time he was 2 on, he would bring Elijah a Coke in a little cooler. So every time my dad would be there, he would give him a Coke. And little things like that. Just a little something to remember another person by. My dad was kind of doing that. I'm going to let someone else in the family speak with us.
Helen, and he was my brother, and I was the one that cleaned the fish. And they gave me enough money because in Minturn, where we lived, we didn't have TV because we lived right in between 2 mountains, and so that gave me money so I could go to the movie, and once in a while maybe a little extra for maybe popcorn and some coffee. So. Anyway, that's, he just was a special man, my brother was. And after my mom died, him and Jane would stay with me when they came out to Utah. And then after Jane was gone, I have a room at home that is Louis' room. It's still there, and it's Louis' room. And so when they come out, they'll be able to use Louis' room. But anyway, I'm going to miss him terribly. He was very special to me. And my kids just love him. This is a special uncle to them. My son Michael couldn't be here. We came a month ago or so to see him for the last time, but he couldn't make it for some. My daughter's here, Terry and Vicky. Mikel, she's lost 2 uncles and now she's lost the other one. The only 3 she ever had. She's been missing terribly.
My name is Clara Amigo Pena, and first I'd like to say that I'm here representing the post 6216. He was a lifetime member there. But I also knew Louis for many, many years for the tremendous amount of work that he did in the community. A lot of people don't know it, but he worked with the businesses on Central, and he worked with his neighborhood association. He actually even sat on a board there. And I also sat on a board with him in the Albuquerque Partnership many years ago. And I'm going to tell a little story. One thing about Louis was he was very opinionated in a number of areas. And he was extremely conservative, and so was I. And we happened to sit on this board that was kind of liberal. And I happened to find out something and gave my opinion. Well, it turned out that I was no longer going to sit on that board. And so Louis was sitting next to me, and he said, "Well, I guess you're out." And then I looked at him and I said, "Well, I'm out now, but you'll be out next." And so about 6 months later, he was out of that board also. So we went and had coffee and laughed about it, how we were opinionated and would get ourselves into trouble. But I saw Louis probably sometime in February or March at the post office, and he wasn't doing too well. And we didn't have much time to talk, probably about 20 minutes, but we reminisced on some of the troubles and things that we got into with some of our party members and also some of the boards that we sat on. And I just want to say that I'm very grateful for a person like Louis who took so much time and gave so much to the community and never asked for anything back. Although I must say, during those times, he was very opinionated. And I just want to say to the family, thank you for allowing you to have, for us to have him at our post. Because when he would stop by there, once in a while, I would hear him chattering with the comrades. And it was always funny because if they were really liberal, he would have his conservative opinion.
I'm going to share one last memory because it kind of goes back to who he was with his sons, his daughters, his daughter-in-laws, his son-in-laws. And then I'm going to open the floor for anyone who'd like to come up and share anything they remember, because he would want us to rejoice about his life. And I'm going to ask if you have a song you want to sing at that time, that's the time, please do. So my father, before I started dating, used to say, don't bring a guy home. I'm going to get my rifle out and clean it if you bring someone home to meet me. And it was just that I'm going to protect you kind of mentality, whether you like it or not. So I asked my husband, because my dad had just told me, your husband honored me. He sat down with, my husband and my dad sat down 2 weeks before my dad passed. And my husband told him, Louis, you're like a father to me. You've been like a father to me all these years I've been married to your daughter for the last 25 years. And I asked my husband, did you ever pull that rifle out when we were dating and clean it in front of him? And my husband said no. And my dad said, you know, your husband honored me. I so appreciate that. Part of what we don't always realize or always say is my dad loved us all, but he didn't want to, especially the holidays and birthdays, treat us differently. So if he would give one child, he would give their spouse something of equal value or equal sentiment. One year he gave me a bracelet, and it's been many years, and he gave my sister-in-law Tilly almost an identical bracelet but a different color of his own. So he made sure that we all felt treasured. And my dad gave and didn't like to take, even help when he needed it. So at this time, I open the floor up for anybody who'd like to come up and share anything they remember about my dad, because we would like to rejoice, because our hearts hurt and found. And we would like to hear things from funny to stubborn to anything you'd like to share. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm not sure it's morning or afternoon morning. I'm Alan Amigo. I used to be a city councilor on the west side. So when I ran for office, after I won, I got to know Louis, and he was very into the community and how we needed to make changes on the west side and what needed to happen. And we had arguments, we had our disagreements, but he was always very respectful. I went to a lot of his neighborhood meetings, and sometimes he would lecture me in front of everybody. And of course, you know, we come from the same cloth, so I would get up and lecture him back. And we'd go every once in a while over to the restaurant there, what's it called? Western View, and have coffee. Even a year ago, or a little over a year ago, we were seeing each other there quite a bit. So I just want to say to your family members and sons and daughters, your father was a big believer in helping people, as you stated. He was a big believer that you made change by being involved. He did not believe in talking about it. He walked the talk, and that's what he did. We got along very well. We disagreed, but we disagreed respectfully. Even after I was out of office, we could always talk. And like I said, we'd have coffee at the restaurant every once in a while. Since he lived down the street anyways, he'd walk over there, so we had a great time. Also here is Ken Sanchez, who's the current city councilor, Louis Tafoya, our city councilor. They were also very involved with Louis for many, many years.
Well, I get kind of emotional. Mr. Tafoya was a dear friend of mine. I've been working with him doing community work for probably almost over 20 years, you know, and it's like everyone else was talking about here, you know, we've had through the years our differences of opinion. But, you know, talking to the family more recently and learning more about the man who he was as a family man, it's just, it really, it helps me to understand some of the views that he had when he was doing his work in the community. Mr. Tafoya, they don't make too many men like Mr. Tafoya. You know, he's a good man. He stood by his convictions. He was always, you know, we talked about one thing that he was telling me recently. He had told me this a while back, and I think this is a good time as any to share it. Is that, you know, he's always been part of the community. He's helped do a lot of the work on West Central with Swan, his own neighborhood association. He belonged to his groups with his fellow Navy men. But one of the things that Mr. Tafoya has done throughout the years is that he was so dedicated to his wife Jane. She started with some other community members, Jeanette Baca and a lady named Miss Roybal. They started doing a police appreciation at the Southwest Area Command. And Mr. Tafoya, Jane, when she passed away, Mr. Tafoya carried that on. And he was very clear before he passed and before that he just wanted to make sure that tradition carried on and that it didn't belong to anyone. It didn't belong to any neighborhood association. It just really belonged to the community. And I just thought I would share that because he, like I said, he was very true to what he believed. And Mr. Tafoya, again, differences of opinion throughout the years. But he, like some other community members that are here in the room today, while we're at home relaxing and enjoying our dinners and with our families, people like Mr. Tafoya were out there trying to make our community a better place for many, many years. Thank you.
Let me first